Karl-Heinz
Stockhausen.
Yeah. Stockhausen was the prototypical composer of the musical avant-garde. Between 1952 and 1970, with every piece, he reinvented music as a whole, with the notation, with the media, with the way of performing, with the concepts, and so on and so forth, and first of all, with the structure. Didn't you collect all the deployments of the word structure in Stockhausen's writings?
Yeah. Klangstruktur, Materialstruktur, Werkstruktur, Schwingungsstruktur, Tonhöhenstruktur, Gruppenstruktur, Massenstruktur, Phasenstruktur, Formantstruktur, Dauernstruktur, Ablaufstruktur, Impulsstruktur, Lautstruktur, Elementstruktur, Gesamtstruktur, Struktur, 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 Struktur Struktur, 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 Struktur.
Consequently, with the avant-garde project, he took off into space, into Sirius. The last possible real performance of this consequence was the string quartet.
His only classical genre piece.
His only classical genre piece, yeah, where every musician sits in his own helicopter while the audience just watches everything on screens. This seems to be the peak of music with live electronics, impossible to surpass.
Yeah.
And so expensive, only he could afford something like that. Nevertheless, only a few years later, this piece was surpassed again by 9/11.
Yeah.
And he was the first to recognize it.
Also was da geschehen ist natürlich, jetzt müssen Sie alle Ihr Gehirn umstellen, das größte Kunstwerk, was es je gegeben hat. Dass also Geister in einem Akt etwas vollbringen, was wir in der Musik nie träumen könnten, dass Leute 10 Jahre üben, wie verrückt, total fanatisch, für ein Konzert. Und dann sterben. Das ist das größte Kunstwerk, was es überhaupt gibt für den ganzen Kosmos. Stellen Sie sich das doch vor, was da passiert ist. Das sind also Leute, die sind so konzentriert auf auf die eine Aufführung. Und dann werden 5000 Leute in die Auferstehung gejagt. In einem Moment. Das könnte ich nicht. Dagegen sind wir gar nichts, also als Komponist.
He has, however, described it wrong.
Absolutely. A gigantic artwork indeed, but that's not something to glorify. On the contrary, fuck! It's an artwork! Well, for the casualties, the art value was definitely low, but...
For the spectator?
But for the spectator who sits in paradise, it was the aestheticized, perceivable clash of civilizations, the symbolic real deterioration, the incomprehensible, overwhelming, sublime staging, the latent energy which was suddenly released, the newness and radicality of the means, the surprise and the blindside, the shocking fascination, the moral double-bind between the visual attraction and the immorality of the brutality, the art light and the art forbidding are there at the same time, and this is again an effect of art and a value of art, because art consists of the unleashing of our terms about art.
Because art consists of the unleashing of our terms about art.
You know, Osama bin Laden was a filmmaker. 9/11 has achieved all definitions of art and surpassed them. Having extended in the 20th century, art is now extended by politics from the other side, you know?
And with 9/11 just the center of art of the 20th century, New York City was buried.
Unlike other symbolic events such as the sinking of the Titanic, 9/11 was a work of art because it was intended and deliberately executed the realization of a concept, no destiny and no nature involved here. After Stockhausen, also Anselm Kiefer, Damien Hirst, Jean Baudrillard and Walter Kampowski, for example, have recognized the aesthetic effect of the action, acknowledged it, at least they admitted it.
Different from World War, which the futurists wanted to transfigure to a kind of art.
Yeah, but earlier art was also brutal and costed human lives. The pyramids, Warhol, Fassbinder, Carlo Gesualdo murdered his wife, but he's still one of the greatest Renaissance composers. Art cannot be charged with criminality. There's no escape. The work is there. 9/11 was a great artwork, even though the intentions of its authors were terrible, absolutely terrible, and they've killed 2,791 human lives. Well, an imitation may not be desirable.
What about revenge?
You can't get revenge on an artwork. That's the perfidious thing about 9/11. An act of violence as an artwork. On this battlefield, the USA can't mobilize. They've upgraded immensely, but not aesthetically, neither in the defense nor in the offensive. This became most obvious with the unspectacular killing of Osama bin Laden, the absolute non-image elimination, nothing symbolic, not even abstract. Now he just was officially off, though he was long gone anyway. The work was completed on September 11th. And also the aesthetic procedure showed that the attacks of the press were unimaginative as cowardly condemned, though they, as Susan Sontag remarked, really required a huge boldness and courage, much more than of the American soldiers who controlled drones remotely.
But later, still a little surprise cue succeeded. The collateral damage video, which WikiLeaks published in 2010.
Yeah, without being asked.
A secret document of the killings of civilians in Afghanistan in the style of a computer game. Again, this is an aesthetic effect video, and simultaneously extremely brutal. They are also filmmakers indirectly, so to speak. And the message is evident, they are video gamers.
Yeah, that's true.
We just engaged all 8 individuals. We're still firing. Sorry. I'm sorry, God damn it, Kyle. Sorry.
I moaned on the evening of September 11th, 2001. Oh no! This will now provide material for decades! Such as the Second World War was a huge art production machine for the succeeding generations. But I was wrong. It was nothing. Because the event itself was already the highest art. Gerhard Richter's blurred image of the burning towers is very awkward, a very weak Gerhard Richter image.
Dagegen sind wir gar nichts, also als Komponist.
9/11 will not soon be topped, and you don't like it anyway. Nevertheless, today there's so many so-called art, and today's world is so complex that only that art is striking, which is very large, made with huge resources, and what doesn't primarily operate in the art mode.
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers is the hypermodern surrealist art. The totality of the David Letterman show is a work of art. The fascinating figure Walter Benjamin, Michael Jackson's body. Porn is the expressionism of the 21st century, and the inhuman intelligence and aesthetics of the tabloids. That's hypermodern art. The whole Bayreuth, the individual work of art, is just a relic of the art claim of the 20th century. The exhibition curator becomes the super artist. He also bears all responsibility. Thomas Schäfer is the super artist. Max MSP, Pure Data, Super Collider, Capitalism are the true artworks.
Jörg Lau described the work of the sociologist Niklas Luhmann as a big novel about the German society.
The entire work of a sociologist is a novel. You novelists, what you are doing is, however, honestly, antiquish novel simulation. The life work of Bach music imitation programmer David Cope, including the controversy, that's a musical work of art. Only a figure with an extreme biography as I by Vi is interesting and relevant. You have to have been living in a state of injustice and challenge the risk of your life. Then you can maybe truly be considered an artist. Bees and ants organize themselves in a hyper-organism, as well as the hypermodern art, and is positive of actions, events, discussions, and political decisions, which is still a work of art today. The small, puny, harmless works of individual artists is just fast food, children toys, garden gnomes, nostalgia, hobby, provincial art, private art. It's just noise. They're all noise musicians. The individual artist cannot make more art for a long time. He cannot express himself anymore. The artist expresses himself. What's that? He can only bring one thing to an expression, to help it. He can finish it, even less. The best thing he can achieve is to create something that expresses itself, something which gains an own dynamic by the power of contradiction. He must tap into huge foreign powers, and it must provoke continuing actions. Kein Mensch ist Künstler. Only many people employed are an artist. The art that is positive is the artist. The artwork is the courtesy of the art, of the dispositive of all humans. Art is the dispositive sculpture that will eventually be recognized as a work of art. In order to make hypermodern art, it needs great resources, henchmen, reception, politics. Adorno spoke it out, the state of materia. Materia today means at least a company. You have to do market researches by many scientists. It is therefore asked everywhere around in the world. Evaluations are conducted, statistical trends determined, and then you have different departments for each parameter: rhythm, pitch, form, etc. Each with over 1,000 employees, own software and hardware developers, a special effect section, a think tank for the background philosophy, and, of course, a large department for public relations. Industrial espionage, poaching top talents from other composing companies, fighting unions are, of course, part of it. Myself is rarely present in the process, but that's just fine. I would deteriorate the product. But a detective makes the audit. I usually only hear the piece in concert. Anyway, the majority of the process is done by machine intelligence, because long ago, all of this would have no longer been feasible only by human hands and brain. I'm just a label. And since in art music, unlike the visual arts, not much money can be earned, acquisitions, fundraising, and lobbying come already at the beginning of the production plan. Recently, I've been on the whole only a mythological figure to the public. No one knows if it really exists, whether it ever has.
The boundaries of art have become extremely extended, but they are still there somewhere. It is the de facto borders of feasibility as well as the still existing standards of morality. To still further exhaust this limit, you need more powerful, more violent means, no matter in which direction. There are 7 billion potential artists in the world with which one competes.
Or even said this way, China, 1.3 billion people, is the sum of all ideas, all musical innovations. In any of these 1.3 billion Chinese brains could lie dormant the recipe for the AIDS vaccine, the solution to all mathematical questions, and the most amazing chord. China is the library of Babel. Everything that can be thought of, every possible combination of letters takes place in the brain mass of China.
If this resource is fully utilized.
China is the latent genius.
China itself is art.
China is art itself, absolutely. Art must create something new. Everything else is not worth the trouble and not worth the money. Non-hypermodern art, as it is now mostly done by the quaint, isolated entities, is cabaret, 20th century art, lolly. Well, most have resigned or ignore this fact. At best, they become curators, curatists. Perhaps they can implement a small idea, a shrewd concept. You can find a few final states, large numbers. A music piece with 70,200 foreign quotes in only 33 seconds. That cannot be surpassed qualitatively. Or 680 possible 3-part chords in the impetus of a duo design. A musical piece with all trumpet passages from Bruckner symphonies, all Beethoven symphonies compressed into 1 second, a theme with 840 variations, a church window with 11,263 colored glass squares, a million ceramic sunflower seeds as an installation, a skull made of diamonds worth 40 million pounds, and a theatre piece taking place 12 hours full of physical excesses. After the end of grand narratives, the large counts, big data follow in the arts, an idea of hypermodern art, an aesthetic theory of hypermodern art. That's what the little artists can do right now, and that's great! That's awesome!